Thank you all for coming out. I think if you think back, Sam, we kind of started in this room it really wasn't that long ago. It was a Jim. I mean, it was just a few months. And this actually has been a really relatively short campaign as far as congressional campaigns go. And so here we are once again. I look around the room and I see probably a lot of folks that have made up their minds about how they're going to vote, or maybe many already. Who's already voted? Anybody already voted? So the early voting group is really growing. I mean, what started out as a small fraction of folks that were doing it, I think we're going to see a significant number of folks who will have early voted before Election Day, just over a week away. And instead of going on about trying to convince you one thing or another today, I want to share with you one of the neatest events I got to do this week, if I may. We've done a lot of campaign events, but the neat thing I got to do this week was speak to a group of high schoolers down in Troup County. I get invited to go and sit with a class that's very involved with current events. And it was a great group of 11th graders and 12th graders, and they had a list of prepared questions. I should have brought all our other candidates too, because there were about 14 questions. These were very well thought out. They were very tough questions. They went from everything from my position on the marijuana issue, to my position on no-knock warrants, to my position on the LGBT issues and what we saw come out this week from the Obama administration. And so what was interesting about the whole conversation, I basically just sat on the desk and talked to the kids for a little over an hour. And what was neat about the conversation at the end of it, as I communicated back to the teacher of that particular class, was I got hope for our nation. Because in that room was the next generation, and these were thoughtful kids that were thinking about issues that really mattered. But as I was watching them, you can usually read a crowd and you get a sense of what you say that's really impactful or the things that kind of fall flat. You just kind of get a sense of that. But what impacted the kids, I'll share with you, because it's what impacts me the most. And I do this reflecting on the Obama administration's issuance of a letter of significant guidance that is going to demand that our schools here in this county and every county across the nation, every school district across the nation, will submit to their demands, or they're going to take our money back from our school systems. I think that is an unconstitutional overreach of the executive branch of our government. And we have seen this for the last 8 years, and it's time it stops. But when I was talking to the kids, what they didn't have a good grasp on is what is the reasoning framework for government. So I took them all the way back to the Declaration of Independence. I said, what is the job of government? You need to know the answer of this. And so I go back, and we've said it here before, but it's worth repeating till every American gets it and knows it, because this is the heart of our nation. That we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that we're endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights. I asked the kids, where do the rights come from? They didn't know at first, but I took them there, and they go, oh yes, from God. This is a public school, mind you. They may have never heard this before in their 11 and 12 years in the public school system, but I said, these rights come from God. They don't come from government. And I said, but the next part of this is what's so key to everybody, that the role of government is simply this, especially the federal government, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted amongst us, deriving their powers from the consent of the governed. And I just let that saturate for a minute. The kids got it. I said, where do they come from? I said, they come from God through us, and we extend those rights for a season to our representatives to steward for us. We've not been good stewards. Our federal government has been terrible stewards of those rights. It's time we put the federal government back in the enumerated powers box that they were designed to be in, and let the rest of those rights flow back where they belong to us, so that we can do it through our local and community governments closer to us. The kids got a hold of this. They understood it, and I could tell in their countenance that it gave them hope, because it empowered them, because they then realized that the power was theirs to extend to a representative. It wasn't being lorded over them. So help me make sure that happens in Washington. If you haven't voted yet, and if you haven't made up your mind, maybe I encourage you just a bit today. We want a steward of that Constitution. Vote Mike Crane, and I guarantee I'll follow through with that. Amen?
Amen.
Amen. Thank you.